wish I had a bear. He could wear a fancy hat and ride a unicycle over to my neighbor's house and eat him. Bears are funny.
The ultimate tool cabinet build has been moving right along here at the Stumpy Nubs workshop. But I gotta tell you, all these sliding dovetails I've been doing is a pain in the tuchus. Especially because I've been kind of tweaking the design as I go along. That's why we haven't been able to release the final plans yet, even though several people have asked for it. Because we don't want you to start building the cabinet before we think that it's just perfect.
Sometimes I get halfway through a project and I want to start using it. I'm already trying to put tools in this thing, so it's time to start making some drawers.
Dovetail drawers were invented by a guy who wanted to just fill his drawers full of rocks and then yank the fronts off them. They're great if you want to do an heirloom piece, but for a smaller drawer on a utility piece, such as a tool cabinet or something in the workshop, biscuits are a strong, fast, and great way to do it.
Remember this pretty little honey? It's the biscuit cutting machine that we designed a couple of months ago. You can still get plans for it at stumpynubs.com. It's the perfect machine for making fast and easy drawers. Now, this is our prototype. It's not as pretty as the one you probably built, but that's a good thing because we've been using this to design a few add-ons to make it even more useful. For example, we put this bar on the top of the fence. That, along with the bar clamped on the table, allows you to cut narrow stock on end. If you want to repeat a biscuit you've done before, you don't necessarily want to turn the crank. It's a lot easier just to cut some wooden shims the right height that you want the table raised. Save those shims and stick them in the next time you want to, say, cut a slot in the center of 3/4 inch stock. Then you don't have to do any adjusting. Another easy improvement is a micro adjust for your depth of cut. Right behind that pin, install a screw. Back it out or tighten it down to adjust how far the cutter plunges into your stock. These are both improvements that you can make even if you've already built the machine. They're easy add-ons.
There are at least a trillion different ways to make drawers. You don't have to put a dress on every pig. The Townsend family may have created some spectacular furniture and some killer guitar solos, but I'm no Christopher or John Townsend. I'm not even a Pete Townsend. I'm more like Gallagher, except with a bigger hammer. I'm telling you, you don't have to put a dovetail in every drawer for every project. And our ultimate tool cabinet is an example.
Once you get over the I'm too good for biscuits attitude, you find a lot of uses for these things in the shop. They're super strong. These things are made out of hardwood, and the shear strength is amazing. When designed properly, a biscuited drawer will do just as well and last just as long as a dovetailed one. Sure, a hydraulic press will pull it apart before it will a set of dovetails, but you're not going to be using that with your little drawers in your cabinet, now are you? When you lay out your drawer parts, you have to make sure that the front panel sets in between the two side panels, so you're going to see end grain from the front of the drawer. That's okay because we're going to make a nice false front for these drawers. Set a combination square so that you can put a guide mark right in the middle on the end of each of the pieces, and then you can use this to line it up on the mark that's on the biscuit machine. Whenever you're using any biscuit cutting machine, keep your hands away from the cutter. That's what that board that we clamped across the table is for. It keeps that end from kicking out. You don't have to put your fingers anywhere near it. Same thing for when you're doing the slots in the ends. Hold on the end far away from the cutter, and you're going to be just fine. This is really a fast way to do biscuit joints because you don't have to clamp down the workpiece. And you don't have to worry about the joiner itself rocking as you make the cut. Of course, you don't have to build this machine. You can make some kind of jig to hold the workpiece with your handheld biscuit joiner. Just be careful. The biscuit joiner is also a great way to cut the slot for the drawer bottom. This way you don't have to set up the table saw or a special bit in your router. It cuts it nice and smooth. You just use the paddles you'd use on your joiner for safety, and the results are great. I don't know who invented this little jig, but it's great anytime you want to glue up something square. It's just made from some plywood scraps. You put a fence on the bottom, and you put one on the side, and you make sure that it's square, a perfect 90 degrees. Then you can use this as your reference to clamp frames, boxes, and our drawer frames. Since they're so easy to make, you might make a few different sizes for different projects. It uses a system of wedges to apply clamping pressure and reduce the amount of clamps that you're going to need. I put just one wedge because this is a small project, and I screw it right to the plywood. It's easy to move for another project. As you tap your wedge in on the bottom, it applies pressure, which pulls the top apart a bit on taller boxes, so you'll have to apply one clamp. Of course, if you want to apply two clamps, one to each side, then you can take it right out of the jig and use the same jig to square up your next one. The only thing left to do is to make the fronts. I haven't done it yet because I'm not sure if I want to do it out of oak or if I want to do some spalted maple or walnut or something. I decided to leave one drawer out and use that as a little bay to hold my block planes. I don't know, I figured it'd be nice to have a place.
Repeat after me. It is okay to use biscuits. They're good in the kitchen. They're great in the workshop.
I'm always looking for another way to spread glue, and there's no shortage of options. From brushes to paddles to pieces of wood to your fingers, I've tried it all. And so when I was at my local Rockler store, I thought I'd try out a new one. It's the Rockler Silicone Glue Brush. The bristles on the end are made out of, you guessed it, silicone. They're spaced to hold a lot of glue, but to still spread it evenly. And the best part is, you can either wash them out easily with water, or you can just let the glue dry on it. It won't stick, it'll just flake off. On the other end, there's a little spatula for a little more detailed spreading of glue, and this cleans up just as easily. The bottom line is it was worth the $4 because it's easy to clean, it's reusable, and it's pretty versatile. You should check it out.
I know what you're thinking. That Stumpy Nubs, he's one cool guy. I bet he doesn't care about safety. The fact is, there's certain things I just don't do in the workshop. For example, I never trim my hair with my lawnmower. I never stick my head in the planer to see what the fast spinny blades look like. I don't manicure my nails with the joiner. I don't put a plastic bag over my head to keep the sawdust out of my hair. And I don't change my bits and blades without first unplugging the machine. If you slip while you're cutting a piece of wood on the table saw, you might lose a finger. You're probably going to bleed a lot. But if you bump the switch while you've got your hand in there loosening the arbor nut, you could lose an arm, cut an artery, and bleed to death on your shop floor. There's some risks that are worth taking, but that is one big risk. I've always been a do whatever you want kind of guy, but I grew out of the I'm too cool for safety stuff a long time ago. Yeah, I don't look great in safety glasses, but I'd look even worse if I had one of those big patches on my eyes. Yeah, it's a pain to put on the ear protection, but it's even worse to have to take the time to learn sign language. Push sticks can be a pain in the rear end, but fingers sure are handy. I'm far too macho to be walking around with a bunch of chunks out of my body. So I say, take the time to be safe. Then you can sit back, have a cold one, because you've earned it, my friend.